We're converting a UI design that I created in Figma a couple of days ago into pure code, plain HTML and CSS, with just a little bit of tailwinds to make it look good. This will take you through the process of how I normally convert a design into code. It is a design that I've been working on for a while called Enhance AI. It's using AI tools for developers to create content or solve problems, and it's something that I need a landing page for. So this is a perfect video that'll be slightly longer, going through the whole process of how I write that code. Now, before we convert this entire design, we need somewhere to host it. Hostinger is today's sponsor, and they're a great place to have hosting domains, whether it's WordPress or local or even your own cPanel or VPS. We're going to have a look at how you can get one up and running. They're only like $1.30 if you were to sign up, but with my coupon you'll get a discount as well. It's nice and simple to do, so just jump into it and throw in a coupon code called Adrian Twarog here and you'll get a discount applied of 86%, which is awesome. Once you're in there, you'll be able to access all their systems and create your own web server. So let's have a look at how you do that. I already have my own account, so I'm just going to simply log in, but you can also log in with GitHub or Facebook or Google. Once you're logged in, you can create your own server. So I'm going to select hosting here, and I want to create a setup for a business shared hosting. I'm going to select the setup option, and then after that, I'm going to select Start Now. Here, I've got a couple of different options. So I'm creating a website here for myself. It's going to be for a business, and I am a professional website creator. Nice and simple. Then I'm going to select what kind of framework I want to use. So in this case, I'm just going to select WordPress, and I can select a username and a password here to get me up and running. Let's select continue, and then I can select which type of website I want, or if I don't want to do this, I want to create my own template, I can just select skip here. And finally, I can claim a domain or use an existing one or buy a new domain. I'm going to use an existing domain, and I've got one here that I already have, which is twarogadrian.com. And in just a few minutes, we've got an entire website ready to go, built on WordPress that we can customize, as well with an entire cPanel that we can use. So check out Hostinger in the link below to find out more. We're going to build this page right over here, and we're going to start off with just a basic file, index.html. Then I'm going to jump on the web, and I want to grab Tailwinds. So let's jump onto the Tailwinds website here. I'm going to select Get Started, and I want to just head over to the documentation and get the Get Started documentation. Here, I want to create a basic page, so I'm just going to pull over the syntax here. And for this basic page, we're going to import Tailwinds, but we're going to use a CDN to do it. So here is the CDN for Tailwinds. And instead of this plugin here for the link, I'm just going to plug in Tailwinds there. And that's more or less it. So we can get started now. We'll do test. And what I might do is pop up a live server, which you can do with the live server plugin on VS Code. And this should have our test in here. So here we can start creating this page. I'm just going to put it here on the left. And we have our design here as well, which is just here on the left as well. And we can get started making some of this design. Now for this design, what I'm thinking is that we'll just start off with the Nav Bar and we'll slowly work our way through it. So let's collapse this over here, keep this here on the left. And now we should be able to view the page just over here. I'm going to zoom it out a little bit and we'll get started. So for the header, I want a div, and this is going to have a class. And for the class, I might do this as border bottom with a border gray 300 color. We also want to give it some padding, so maybe a padding Y of 4. And we're going to have the logo in here. So I'm going to actually pull out the logo here as an SVG. And I might pull out the whole thing, I'm thinking. So let's actually do an export here. We'll select SVG and select to export that. Now we didn't group it, so it didn't come up as an SVG. So let me just group that once more. Select, and now it's an SVG. And I'm going to drag it here into our project so that we can reference this. We'll call this the logo. Beautiful. Then I'm going to import it here. So I'm going to do image, src. We'll pass in logo.svg, and that's pretty much it. Now for the width, I'm just going to do 100%. and hopefully that looks okay, but let's see what we get. So here's our logo. It's in our page now, but 100% might be a little bit too much. Let's play around with that. So what I'm thinking is maybe something like 200 for 200 pixels, and that's about right. If we have a look at the design early on, and the height here, where was it? The width was 291. So let's actually move that to 291 so we're staying consistent. And there it is. The other thing we have here is a container. So let's put this inside of a container and paste this in. So now when we refresh, we should see, contain maybe? Contain, I think. Let's double check. I can't remember what the class is. Container? Surely it's something that I remember. So let's jump onto Tailwinds as the website. Pass in container here, and we do have a container style. We also need to apply MX Auto so that it centers though. So let's plug that in. Now it's actually centered. So that's a little bit better. So we've got our header there. We want to have a couple of Nav Bar items. So let's pass in a Nav Bar here. For this Nav Bar, maybe we'll have a link here, and this will be our home page. Let's do a couple of others. For this nav, I might also put it inside of a UL. So we've got nav, UL, LI, and then the links. So we'll do home, pricing, and maybe we'll do free sign up just to get us started. So we've got these items in here now. I'm going to do a class here of flex so that they all align. And for these items, I'm also going to put this inside of a class of flexed here for our container. And let's move this container inside of the nav. So now the nav and the container are together and there are flex, so you can see them aligning here. I'm going to also do, I think, align items center. I think that should... Maybe it's just item centered. There it is. So we can see that they're nice and centered now. And for each one of these items, we are also going to let's enter this in here as px-2 and py- then maybe also 2 there. Great. Then we'll also do a bg gray 200 just so that I can see what's happening here. And maybe a rounded for the corners there, maybe rounded -MD. So that's looking closer to the design. I actually want the sides to be a bit more, so let's do px4 here. So that's looking a little bit better now. And we're going to apply these same classes to the other ones as well. Beautiful. We also want to do a bit of a divider. So actually, we might not need a divider. So for this BG gray, I'm just going to do it only as a hover element. So let's put hover here. And then we've got our BG gray. Beautiful. So now when we hover over these items, we've got a nice gray color, and we'll do a transition too. So that's looking all right. Then for this one will be active. So being active, I'm going to do a slightly different color. I think, let's have a look here. We're going to do a series of different colors to get this working. This one might be an interesting series of colors. So I'm going to perhaps do something like, I'm going to copy over some styling I had earlier. Let's try this. So BG gray with all these sort of styling. That's sort of what I'm going after. I just want to get rid of the MT4 here, which gives it a margin top of 4. And that looks much better. It almost is too big of a button now, but I do like the design of this button. Now that we've got this button, I might also play around with the font so that all of these have a font medium, and then we also want to probably give all of them a border top of 2 so that they're all standing around the same height. There is another issue here where they don't seem to be aligning very well. Now I think that's because maybe the padding, I think. Let's have a look here. I'm not too sure exactly what that is, but let's do align item center so that they are all centered. And there does seem to be a difference in the sizing here for each one of these. So let's see what that is. We've got our text LG. I think that's what it is. It's because the text here is larger. So let's actually plug that in there. And now they look like they're almost all the same size. So I'm going to leave that. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do border transparent here. And that way that border of 2 pixels up the top isn't showing, but we've got our home showing nicely there. So that's great. So in terms of our design, we're getting closer to what it looked like before. Here's the design. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but I do think I might need that green and teal happening. So for this color here, gradient to right, we've got green. I'm gonna do this green to, let's see, it's border green. Then we've got from green to blue. So I'm gonna do this to green to maybe yellow, I think. Let's see how that looks like. Yellow doesn't look very good. Let's plug that yellow in. Nah, that doesn't look good either. What about like that? No. What about, we'll get rid of from to. So now it's more like a green to a yellow. Do we have teal? Let's see. I don't actually know if we have teal here. So we don't have teal. Maybe we'll do purple. Yeah, purple looks good. It's probably closer to what we wanted to do. We might even want it to go from purple to green. So that looks a little bit better. We can always check the Tailwind colors by just going over here, going to colors and having a look at some of the different shades we have. Blue might work in this case, or even indigo. Let's try it indigo. I'm gonna do indigo 400 to green 500. I think that's pretty close. I'm gonna stick with that for the time being. And then we've got our other buttons here. It slightly gets darker when we hover over it, and it's got sort of the same color aspect there. What else? So we've got pricing, free sign up. So free sign up, I'm gonna just change to maybe, well, for the time being, I might even remove all these items and I just might do free sign up. How's that look? Beautiful. Because I'm going to add in all the contact pages and stuff much later on. So if I'm going to do that, let's actually plug in slightly different colors. So I'm thinking purple 500 to indigo 600. That's better. And then indigo can be the border color too. Great. So that's looking closer to what I wanted it to look like before. The only other thing now is we need a icon for this. So for the icon, I'm gonna do hero icons. We're gonna select the one here. We're gonna go user, and we're gonna do this one with the plus sign. I'm gonna plug this straight in here. See what that looks like. It seems to have come across okay. I don't have to do any changes for that besides just adding it a class. And for the class, I'm going to do MR2 just to give it 2 or maybe 4, MR4. Do we have classes here on this SVG? I don't think so, but it doesn't seem to be applying what I want it to. Maybe if we do width 8. Nope. Here we go. There's already a class attribute here. So I'm going to do MR2 like I wanted to, and that's looking much better now. We've got our free sign up button there. I almost want the buttons to be bigger now. So there, that free sign up looks much bigger, but then again, we are zoomed in quite a lot. So we want to make sure that even when we're zoomed out, it looks okay. Then over here, we're going to do justify. Oh, maybe space between. Let's see. Oh, around, space around. I can't remember what we need to do here to get it to expand out on our item here. So let's actually check tailwinds for that. Let's do space around. And how do we apply this? So we do content around. Ah, okay. Let's give that a shot. So I'm going to do content around. That doesn't seem to have done it. Then we've also got content center, content start, content end. I want to see what that looks like. Let's apply that just over here. Content end. None of these seem to be working at all, which is very strange. Maybe I'm not applying them on the right element. We've got flex, flex wrap, content start. Maybe justify content. Yeah, I think it's justifies content. There we go. We want to do justify between. So let's do justify between. Now our sign up button is there at the very end, but it also, if we expand it out, is centered. So that's sort of how I wanted it to work. So with that done, we also have a visual item here that we're going to plug into the design, which is just this thing over here. I'm going to export this and we'll plug this into the design over here. We'll call this dot pattern and we'll do this as part of the header. So let's do header left dot pattern. It's a nice and descriptive name. Then where we want to apply this is just over here somewhere. So I'm going to sort of apply it in this section. If we check the width on this in the design, it's 88 pixels. So let's actually plug that in to make sure that it's the same. And then we also want to give it some classes. So for the classes, I'm going to do position relative for this. And then this is absolute. And I'm going to do left 0, top 0. And let's see what that looks like. And I've got the wrong file name here, so that didn't really work out exactly how I wanted it to. We even forgot to add the dot here on the SVG. So good check. Let's plug this in here. So there's our pattern. We want it from the right, and we want it at 100% from the right. So let's see how we do this in Tailwinds. Let's do position right, and then we want to do right 100% ideally. I wonder if there's a thing for that. There we go. So we've got top 100%, full left, right, full left. So we do full left or full right. So let's give that a shot. And we'll put this in full left, and I can't see that. What about full right? I can't see where that's going. It's like disappeared, which is very strange. What about right full? That's where it is. So that's exactly where I wanted it to be. Then I want to do MR maybe 4. So it's off a little bit, maybe even more 12. So that way, when we're looking at it, we can see that it's sort of off center. And even for the top, we could do like negative top 4. So it's like off the top a little bit as well. So I'm happy with that for the pattern on the left. We also have a pattern here on the right. These two shapes. I'm going to export them. We'll plug them into the file. And we're going to give these the same sort of a naming structure, but this time on the right. And we're just going to call these shapes. Let's make sure we add the dash in here. So shapes right. Copy this name across, and we're gonna copy more or less the same sort of a syntax here that we did for the other image, just on the right hand side this time. So we'll do left full, and let's have a look at the sizing for those. So this had a width of 141, so let's plug that in here. And now we've got those shapes on the right. Let's do ML12, and then that way, if we have a look at this shape now, it's sort of there on the right hand side, just floating off by itself, which is perfect. The other thing is that for this header element, we're just going to add a little bit of padding. So maybe something like px4. And that way there's a little bit of padding there from the left and the right, and that just looks a little bit better once we're resizing things. So that's our header done. Because I don't really have additional pages yet that I want to place in here, I'm not going to change it up anymore, but I will also add maybe a tag here to the logo, because whenever you have a logo, you want it to go to a / and you want also add in an alt. So I'm just going to call this logo, maybe enhance AI logo. And then these ones here, I'll also put in some quick alt tags. They're not going to be called anything special, just shapes and whatnot, so that we get good SEO. Beautiful. So we've got that done. Then we can move on to the next section here, which is the main hero. So we've got this bit of text here we're going to create, which is font size 72, and we're going to create this just underneath. So let's see, we previously had this section here. We could almost call this the header, and now we can create a new section here, and this section can be sort of like the hero. So I'm just going to give it a hero class here. And then we also want a container inside. So I'm going to copy over the same sort of container we had previously, just to keep things consistent. And then we've got our tag here, which I'm going to do as a H1 element. Now for this tag, we've already got the text here, so I'm just going to plug it in. But I'm also going to give this a class that will make the text the color that we want. So we want text XL maybe, or 6XL, font medium. And let's just quickly save that. We can see that it's there. And then we want to make sure that it has a little bit of padding. So maybe we can create a padding section of what, 24? Sorry, no, this section here, I believe we still haven't added the padding here on the section itself. So let's do padding there. But for the X value, we'll do 24. I've got some code I wanted to use previously, so I'm going to paste that in. We're going to adjust it just a little bit. So from purple, maybe we'll do from green, 400 to purple, 400. Give that a test. That looks pretty good, almost spot on. We just need to make sure that this AI has a strong tag so that it's nice and bold. And I'm gonna do this as bold. Oh, I think we have to pass in font bold. There we go. I might even do this as just a regular span. Font weight bold. Medium. Font light. I wonder why this isn't picking up. Maybe if we get rid of this double font medium from here. And then we do font bold here. Will that pick it up? What about medium? That's really, because I'm doing class name. I'm just used to doing this so often in React. There we go. So now we've got this bit of text. It's looking good. We've got use AI to solve pretty much anything. We're going to do text center for this, and we're going to leave this as a block. So here, I believe it should be centered, but it doesn't look like it's centering very well. Let's have a look at the inspect. I believe that's because we're applying a flex over here. So we're going to get rid of that flex. And there we've got our center. So now that we've got that, let's pull down my code editor. Sorry, my console over here. We're also gonna apply some padding. So we did this, but we wanted it on the Y variable. So now there's a little bit of space there from the top and from the bottom. We wanna put in a P tag over here, and I'm gonna plug in some of that text. Let's pass in a class over here. And for the class, I'm gonna do text medium, no, sorry, text LG, maybe XL even. Then we wanna do font medium. And text, let's do text gray 500. So that looks all right, but it's almost too bold. So I'm going to get rid of font medium. We're also going to text center this. And I think I want the max width to be 48. Let's see. Can't remember what max width is. So let's check out Tailwinds. We'll do max width. And it's max dash. So let's pass in max dash width. And then we also want to do, so we can do XL variable. So let's try this, max dash W dash XL. And then we also want to use the margin to center it. There we go. So that's looking better. Now that we've got that, the next thing we want to do is have a look at giving it a little bit of margin there from the H1 tag. So MT2, maybe? MT4? MT4 looks all right. So let's actually have a look at it from a large size. So from a large size here, I still feel that it could be a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is maybe do 8. 8 is, it's almost too much. Let's try 7. Yeah, 7's good. So we'll do 7, and here we'll do text LG. Oh, sorry, text XL or 2XL. There we go. So those sizings are much better with the design that we had here, as you can see. So I'm happy with that so far. The next thing we need to do is create this button that says get started. So I'm just going to create a button here, and for this button I think I might copy some of the styling we had earlier right over here. So let's copy this A tag. We're gonna collapse this header down. We'll paste this A tag in here, and we'll call this get started, but this time we'll move the SVG on the right, and I might even change up the SVG. As part of this, we probably also want to do a auto margin so that it's centered. So let's make sure that happens, and we'll do inline dash block. So here we've got an inline block for this element. Still doesn't seem to be centering very well. Let's have a look at what's happening here, why it's not centering. So we've got this block, the margin MX auto doesn't seem to be taking effect. But that's okay. What we can do here is we can do just text center, and I think that might just fix it. That's much better. So doing that, we can get rid of MX Auto. We'll keep it as an inline block. We'll make the font size bigger. So we've got, let's see, font size or text size. Do we have a text element in here? Let's have a look. Text. We do have text LG. I might do 2XL. That's nice and large, but we'll get rid of the font medium here because I feel like when it's larger, it's not looking very good. And this SVG here, we probably need the margin to come in on the left. And we also need this to have a bit of a margin from the top, maybe 4, maybe 8. I think 8 might be good. So that we've got that done, we can change the color for this too. I think I might make this a green. So let's do from green to blue. See how that looks. That looks much better. And then the border at the top can be green. Yeah, that's nice. So with that done, I think let's add some more padding on there too. We'll do maybe 8 and 6. 6 might be too much. Let's try 5 and 10. Yeah, now that's a nice and big button. We just want to jump into Tailwind's hero icons, get a chevron right, copy over the SVG for that, plug that in here, jump in here where we've got a 6 and a 6. We'll change that to 8 and 8. ML4, so we've got some margin from the left, and we've got a nice chevron right there that's happening. So this section is now done, more or less. We'll do some work on it with its mobile responsiveness though. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pass in MD. So that gets smaller. For this here, I'm going to pass in MD, and this I'm going to do like 4. And then for this here, I'm going to pass in MD, and then in here I might pass in 8. And then for the button here, I'm going to pass in maybe MD and MD. And then for the font size, I'm just going to move it up here so I can pass it in as well. And then PX can be 4 and PY can be 3. And we also, I don't know if we want this to be full width right now. Somehow it's full width, but it shouldn't be. So what's going on here? We've got MD flex happening. So realistically, we just want it to always be an inline block, or maybe just an inline flex even. So where's the inline here? Inline flex. Yeah, that's much better. Now we just want to justify center or align items center. Item center? There we go. Item center. So now that button gets smaller when we get to this smaller mobile version format. Beautiful. Okay, so with that done, we can move into the next part of the design now, and that is creating this section over here, which is a large block which will be editable, and it's going to do a lot of different stuff. So this is going to be quite hard to do, but I'm sure we can figure it out. Before we get to that, let's actually copy over another button that I noticed in the design, and it's this yellow one here. I'm just gonna export this as an SVG, and we'll plug this into our hero section, and we'll call this maybe hero top right pattern or dots. Let's copy this SVG shape, and in here for our section, let's close out the header. We'll do relative here, and then I'm going to create the SVG just over here. We're gonna paste it in and use it pretty much like we did the other one. So I'm just gonna copy over this shape that we have for the image. We're gonna cut and paste this in. Let's check the size. So the size was 118. So let's put this in 118. Then we want to essentially have it happening from the top 4. We'll take off ML and we'll just do right 0. Maybe right 4. So that way we've got the shape just over there. We might even pass 8 and 8 because I think that might work a little bit better. So now it's like a little bit off to the center, but it's always sort of there, and it's sort of in the background, which is nice. So now that we've got that done, let's have a look at creating this next part here. So I'm going to maybe I'll keep it in this section, maybe not. Let me think. I almost think it needs its own little section. So I'm going to create a new section here. I don't know if I'll give it many classes. I think just relative for the time being. And then py4. And then after that, we'll need the inside of it. So I'm just going to copy over what we had previously. But for this, while we'll have a container and we'll create MX, I'll leave the rest here pretty much blank, and we'll do our box. So our box, what will it have? I suppose it needs a rounded -XL. We're also gonna have, well, for the time being, a border, just so that I can see it. And we're gonna pass in test in the bottom here so we can see what it looks like. We'll do PY, or maybe P4, P8, let's see. Yeah, P8 looks all right. So for the padding 8 pixels. Then after that, I want to have it to be a flex because I want 2 parts and I want to divide by Y. So we're going to have part 1, which will be, I suppose this part will have its own padding, right? So let's actually pass in P8 here, BG gray 50, test, and then we'll do another one. And this one here will be 150, say, or maybe just 100. Then we want these to flex grow. So let's do both of them as flex grow so that you can see both of them are here. And divider, I want the X value there. So now that we've got these two, I can get rid of the background so we can see both of them. And we want to add some shadow to this rounded section. So I'm going to do shadow and then XL maybe. Yeah, that looks all right. Could do with even more shadow, but let's see what shadow properties we have here on Tailwind. So let's go shadows. And we've got our box shadow here. We've got a few different types, but I want the shadow to almost offset on the other angle, which is going to be hard to do. I don't think I actually can do that. I'm just going to use shadow to XL because I do need a very strong shadow for this section here. Then I'm gonna create the content within these sections in a second. So for the content, what we need is we need like a H2 element here. And this H2 element will be like explain the code. We need a P element here, which will be like a small explanation of what that is. Then we've got like a, I suppose, title block. I'll do this as a H3 element. And then we've got the text below, which is almost like in code really. So that's sort of what it looks like without any content. Instead of flex scroll, let's see if we can pass in flex 1 for both of these, because I want them to be the same size. Great. Now for this class here, I'm going to do text medium. Oh, sorry, font medium. Font medium to make it bolder. We're going to do text XL or 2XL maybe. Maybe even 3, 4. Yeah, 4 looks good. Let's take out maybe font medium for the time being. So that looks okay. And then after that, I want this section here to be a little bit lighter. So text gray, maybe 600. We'll do text XL. Yeah, XL looks a little bit too large. Maybe LG. LG will be perfect. Then here for this section class, this might need like MT4. So we've got some margin from the top there, maybe even more, maybe MT6. We also want it to be bold and larger. So I'm going to do text LG again, but this time font medium so it stands out. Might even need bold. Yep, so that's better. And then for the code here, let's do class and then do BG gray 200. Ooh, that's not what I really wanted. We might wrap this in a gray color and then put the code inside because this code is not coming out the way I wanted it to come out. So that's better. Then I'll do P4, so padding 4 pixels. No, that still doesn't look like I want it to look. Let's actually put P4 on here. So that's better. Rounded MD. Yep, so that's starting to look better. Let's do 100 for the text color there. Then we'll also pass in MT4, MT2. There we go. And then we'll do a min height here for the code. So I suppose class height equals 24. It's hard with the code element. I'm not too sure yet how I'm going to do that. I might just get rid of the code element for the time being and hit save on that. And here we'll do height min 24. How do I do height min 24? I always get these confused. Height. So we'll do minimum height. I guess we don't have an option for that. What about if we just set a height? So here we can set a height. So maybe like height 48 might be it. Try that out. So that looks good. Maybe a little bit too much. So 36, 38, 42. No, 44. Yeah, 44 is just about perfect. That's sort of what I want. And I'm also going to make the text larger, so maybe XL, just so that you can clearly see what's happening with this text. We might even give it some coloring later, but for the time being, I think that's okay. Now that we've got this section done, we've also got to add an icon in here, because we've got this icon that's happening here on the left. So this is again another hero icon. So let's try, I think it's like old chat. Is it old chat? No. Chat. There we go. It's an annotation. That's what it was. So I'm going to plug it in here. And then these two sections I'm going to put inside of a flex. There we go. So we can see it here. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make it 12. And then I might also give it a bit of a margin to the right of 2 units, 4 units. 4 units looks okay. So that's looking closer to what we had before. And then here MT2, just to give it some padding from the top for the next section there. So that is good. I'm happy with that so far. I still feel maybe this needs to be darker. Let's see. Yeah, that definitely looks better when it's a little bit darker. And then we've got our code here, and then we should get a button here at the bottom. And this button will be like enhance with AI. So let's actually copy out one of our buttons here we've got in our header. I might do this free sign up button, and we'll plug this in here at the bottom of our section, just below our code. We'll pass in MT4 to give it some padding, maybe even more, maybe MT8. So it has a lot of padding there. Now we're going to call this enhance with AI. And then for the icon, I'm going to use a hero icon of maybe copy. Yeah, let's do duplicate. So we'll copy this SVG here. We'll plug it in, and mainly we just want to create MR4 here. And there we go. So if we have a look at our design and our code, that looks more or less correct. We just might need some rounded corners a little bit more on this shape here. So let's try 2XL, and that looks a little bit better. And we can have a look at the next side of it, which is this side over here now. So for this side, I suppose what we need is a similar format from the top. So we could just copy a lot of the stuff that we have here and paste it in. But this time we want a chevron right. So I think we had a chevron earlier in our code, somewhere here in our heroes section. I'm just going to copy that SVG and place it in here. And we're going to resize it maybe. Let's see. MR4. Let's see what we can do. So I think that's okay. I'm not sure yet. Maybe we'll do that as, like, I want to have a circle around it. I'm not sure how I'm going to make the circle. And I almost can't be bothered making the circle just yet. So I might leave that till later. But let's fill out the text here with the new piece of text. So what does this do? The following code does. Beautiful. Let's do align center. Is that the one? I think we had the code earlier here. Item center, that's the one. So let's actually plug that here into the flex so that it is properly centered for our indentation. So that way when we expand it out, it looks okay. And what we want to do next is to add some of these circles in there. So I've got, I think, a piece of code that might do that circle. Let's have a look if I can find it. I think it's just wrapping this inside of a div. Let's try flex and then get rid of this flex, put this content in here and put the SVG in there. There we go. Now we just need to change the color. So instead of doing a from to, we'll just do BG gray 200. That looks okay. And then flex, and then it hasn't centered it? Why hasn't it centered it? It should have. I think it's because of this margin. So let's get rid of this margin. And that's looking better. We'll just make it a little bit smaller now that it's in a circle. And if we have a look at the design, we do have this in like a very dark color, while the text itself is, let's see if we have text in here. We've got height, rounded. If we do text white, yeah, there we go. So that's working. We'll do MR4 for that. So it's got a bit of a margin there. Oh, that's not working. Where's my MR8? I wonder why that's not working for my margin. Because we have this MR4. That's still not working. What about ML4 here? That worked, so I'm just going to plug that in for the time being. I'm going to leave flex. I'm going to do this as inline flex. I think that'll make more sense. So now we've got this nice chevron. We've got a bit of code here that says what does the following code do. And what we want to do now is maybe copy over this sort of styling that we have below, but not as a H element, just as maybe a regular div or a line item. And I'm going to get rid of some of these sizings as well. So I'm just going to do text XL. We'll get rid of medium. So it'll just look like that. And then the chevron, which is huge right now, we'll do it to 4 and 4 and 8 and 8. And get rid of this stuff here, which resizes it. Oh, it's odd. Let's do 8 and 8 and get rid of this stuff here. That's looking much better. And then we also want it to be gray. So BG gray here should be what we're doing, and text white, I can get rid of that. So there's our chevron, and I can see that I had two options here of text gray, so I'll get rid of that too. So we've got this. We might pull in an example of what it's doing here, and then we might copy it across once or twice as well, and then put this in a larger div. And this will be called divide-x or divide-y, I think. I want that line in between. So there's the line. And I want it also to have some padding. So I might do px4 or py4. Yeah, that looks good. And let's do py4 on the other one as well. So that looks nice. We also want a little bit of padding here from the top. So I'm going to do mt4 as well. So it's a little bit out from the top. And I think that's getting close to the design here. We just need a couple more bits of content. So I'm just going to replace this one over here. Create one more. Copy this text and paste it in here. And here's our 3 examples. So this section is done, I think. The only problem is that this flex is causing it to die a little bit when this gets shrunk. So let's make sure that we create one that doesn't shrink. So let's go flex shrink, and we don't want it to shrink. So I'm going to do flex shrink 0 on this section here for the SVG for all 3 of them. 1, 2, 3, and now they should stay as circles. Perfect. We also want to copy over the section here for copying content, essentially. We've got this copy output section. So this is a very similar button to what we have earlier here with Enhance AI. So let's do Enhance with AI. Let's copy this button. We're going to paste it here below, just about here. Let's see where that pops up. So that's just over here. And we want this button to essentially be copy content. I think we had a duplicate button before, but I'm just going to leave it like that. Seeing it's more or less the same thing. Then we want to get rid of all the colors that we're applying to it. So it's like all these hovers and everything like that with all the text. And I want it just to be a nice simple button here with no border whatsoever. No shadow, nothing. Just let's see, we'll get rid of this hover as well. We'll just do BG gray 100. So that's a nice simple button here. And maybe for the hover, we'll do BG gray 200. Nice and simple. Now let's get rid of the text shadow. So I've got a hover text shadow LG there. We'll get rid of that. And now it's a nice simple button to copy the content of this stuff over here. And for these items, I still feel like maybe they've got too much padding. So I'm just going to get rid of that by creating MT2 there. And maybe even MT3. MT3 should be just enough padding for them to work, but without pushing too much of the content down. So now all of this looks like it's more or less in line. We can continue moving on to adding maybe some of this background color to the bottom of this section here. So we've got this linear background section. So what we're going to do is we're going to collapse all these sections down, and we're going to create this new section. And we're going to do BG purple, maybe 500, and we'll do a height of maybe 92 or maybe 48 just to start off with. And we do a negative margin of top of 48. And there we go. So for this section, we can see it's overlaying, but we've got an issue here where the background color hasn't been applied. So we're going to apply BG white here. Now it's applied, and we can also make this next section bigger soon by putting padding, maybe Y4. Let's do test, and let's do a div in here. And this div can also have another class which has a height, and we'll apply that in later, but at least we've got some stuff in here. Let's make a few of them. Are they showing up? They don't seem to be showing up. A, B, C. Where's my A gone? That's very odd. The BG isn't appearing the way I want it to. What if I get rid of this negative 48? All right. So it is there, BG gray. What if I put it in here? Nothing like some good old-fashioned bugs to make you really wonder what is going on. I've got these three sections that have BG. I think it's because I've got a hard height in here, so I need to get rid of that in order for it to work. So let's get rid of that. Now we've got this nice purple color, and we're going to do a linear gradient for that as well, I think. So let's have a look at a nice linear gradient we can do here from Tailwinds. Let's do linear gradients. We want to do something to the right, so I'm just going to copy this syntax over here, paste it in, and we'll do from purple to indigo and hit save on that. Indigo might not be the right color, but that's all right. We'll give it another test. And there's our example. Maybe do 500 purple to 600 indigo. Yeah, that looks good. I'm happy with that. And we can get rid of this text that we had previously here. We'll add some text in later on, but we've got a bit of a design happening now. It's getting closer to the design here that we have in our file. I'm almost inclined to make this color even darker, maybe 700. And this one here, maybe 600. Yeah, that looks better. Just simply because it'll be better for the contrast later on. We also want to grab these shapes we have here offset. We're going to group them, export them, save them as an SVG, and plug them into the project here. Now for this one, I might call it purple top left shapes. Give these a copy, and then I'm going to plug them in here. So let's actually grab an example of our shapes from before. We'll plug them into this section over here. For the height and size for these, it's a little bit more. This one's 317. So let's pass in 317 here, and we should see them pop up soon. We're going to have this as a position of relative. And we also want this to have a higher Z index, so Z50. And for these shapes here, we'll want them to be maybe left 4, top 4. Get rid of the other stuff here. So there they are. We want to get rid of the padding so that they sort of exist, but they're almost cut off a little bit here from the left, which is odd. I'm going to do left 0. There we go. And then top we'll do -4. How about that? That should work a lot better. Maybe even -12. Maybe -24. And -48. There we go. So now we've got these shapes, and they're sort of behind the elements, but also overflowing. And in terms of our design, it's exactly how we want them to be. They could even be a little bit higher, maybe 64. And now they look pretty much on par with how we want them to be. That way, when we shrink it down, we can see that they're also overlaying from the back of that content there, which is great. Let's see what's next. So we also have a few shapes here at the bottom right, but I'm going to leave them for the time being. What else can we do? We can create this content here at the bottom of this section. I'm not sure yet how I want it to work, so I'm going to have to play around with it, but it's probably going to have to be a sizing thing. So let's type in testing here and see where that pops up. We almost want, I'm gonna do a div with a border, border red 500, testing 1, 2, 3. I want to see where that pops up. So that's up here. So realistically, if we've got this MT48, we also have to do a PT48. So we do a padding of 48 units, and we can see that everything then starts off from here. We might even have to add a few more units of padding, but I think that should be enough. And here we can create that menu that we have at the bottom of this section here, using the same sort of buttons. Now, for these buttons, I think that I've gotten the sizing a little bit wrong, because on here they seem a lot bigger than what they are on here. So let's mess up the buttons a little bit and make them bigger on our actual design. So enhance with AI is here. Here's our button. So it's right over here. Let's make sure that we're viewing this in the right sizing. Let's make this say 8 and 4. Yeah, that looks way better as a larger button. And then the rounded LG, maybe XL. Yeah, that looks better as an XL. We almost might not need the border at the top. So where is this border top? Get rid of that. So it's nice and rounded. And I think that's okay now. So we'll leave that button here. I'll just double check it. Yeah, that's good. And now we want to copy over this button, and I want to paste it here below in our section here, which we're going to have as a flex. So let's pass it in there. And this also needs to be in a container. And MX Auto. Beautiful. So there it is. We want this first one to be white. So what I'm going to do is grab most of this that we don't need. And we're going to do BG white, text purple 600. So there we go. And we want font medium, maybe even font bold. Now that's not looking exactly the way I want. So maybe we'll do text or Excel. That's better. And the font medium still needs to be there though. Make sure we spell that correctly. So that's looking good. And we want this first one to be explain code, because that's the first section we're on, explain code here. So that's better. We want more rounded corners. So where is the rounded? We'll do XL. So that's maybe 2XL. Yeah, 2XL is good. We're going to also apply 2XL to the other one here. So where is rounded? Where is the rounded? 2XL. Beautiful. Just so that they're consistent. So explain code will be the first one. We don't really need a hover state for it, but we do need to change the icon for it. So let's grab the icon we have here for explain code. We'll plug this in here, and we want to have this as 6 and 6 and 2. And there we've got a nice, much better looking icon. We'll do 4 for the padding, but we'll also have to make sure that we'll align the items correctly here. So let's see if we've got an example of item center. I always forget that. Paste that in here. Oh, sorry, not in here. In here, I think it is. Is that correct? Yep. And there we've got explain code, which is our first piece. We also have a bit too much of a margin there from the top. So I wonder why that is. I'm going to get rid of the height that we've set here manually. And this top, that's for the image. So for this section here, what do we need to get rid of the padding? MT8, I think that's it. So if we get rid of MT8, it's almost too much. What about MT4? MT4 looks like just enough there to work. But the problem is we've got too much of a box shadow happening on this entire element here where we've got 2XL. So I'm going to get rid of that and put in a independent box shadow. We're going to do maybe something like 50 pixels, 25 pixels, 0 RGBA, 0.5. And I think I need another pixel, 0 pixels. 0 pixels? How many 0 pixels do we need for this to work? I feel I'm doing this wrong. Box shadow. 3 of them. Maybe this middle one has to be... Yeah, there we go. So this is 0 pixels, 25 pixels. Let's do 50 pixels. And then make it 25%. So that's looking better. I think that should be okay. We could even do this as like for EM. That'll make more sense. And then maybe 1.25. So that's, if we have a look at the design, that's looking much closer towards what the design looks like. And now we can move into adding the other buttons that we need here at the bottom left. So let's actually shrink this down a little bit and have a look at these buttons. So we've got this regex one. We've got a convert code one. We've got a few of the buttons there. So let's copy this one over here for the A tag. And I'm going to create the second button here. And the second button is the regex one. So let's pass in regex in here. But this one will be slightly off purple and it'll have a bit of a margin to the right. So maybe what we'll do here is we'll pass in MR4 and we'll pass this into the other one as well. So let's have that in there. And instead of having that white color for the background, we'll do purple, maybe 400. See what that looks like. That's looking close to the shade we want. And the other part is we want it to have a white color for the font. So let's grab the text color here from purple, 600. We'll do to white. So let's see, white might be too bright. In this example, we actually have it as a dark purple. So let's do 800 purple. That's looking much better. And then what we could do is we could even have a hover effect. So here for the hover, let's pass in maybe the text will go white. So let's pass in text white. And we'll also have a background hover too, where maybe the background itself goes a lighter shade of purple, maybe 200. So that way it looks like it's almost lighting up. Maybe the text color will actually leave and instead of having it white, because otherwise it looks a bit odd there. So that looks better for these elements. We just need the SVG there for the regex. So let me pull that across. I have this one here that I can pull across with the SVG code. So I'm just going to paste it in here, but get rid of the width and the height. And I might put in my own, possibly copying over the class names we had before. So let's give that a refresh and we can see it's in there. It's a bit small. I might make it a little bit bigger, maybe 8 and 8. Let's give that a shot. So that looks a little bit better now. And then we also probably want to play around with the color to make sure it's filled. So maybe current color. I think we had a setting in here, stroke current color. So let's do that here and save that. And let's pull this into the site itself. So where's the site hiding? And there we go. That looks better now. Now it's got that color that we wanted. And now I'm going to also make a couple of extra buttons in here. So let's actually copy out this A tag that we have. And for the other ones, I might have a look at the designs here. So we've got one here for convert code. So let's paste that in. And then we also have one here for fix grammar. So let's plug that in too. And we'll do that here as one of the last ones. So more or less, I'm pretty happy with the design so far. Next video, I might convert all this HTML now to a React app because I want to add some functionality here and some hovers, and we might use some maybe inline styles or maybe even styled components to convert some of these. But hopefully this gives you an idea of how I coded this page out. I'll share out the design of Figma in the link below as well if you guys want to check that out. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.